Do psychedelics actually help in therapy? Now there's a question that nobody answered. Over the last few years, psychedelic therapy, psychedelic coaches have become all the fashion, very popular in the mental health industry. Some people describe it as revolutionary, some people describe it as inherently dangerous. But I think there's a much more important question to be answered. How is it actually meant to work? It's not a question of whether people sometimes improve. It's not a question of whether some people have profound experiences. But what it is a question of is, what is the actual proposed mechanism that turns a temporary altered state of consciousness to lasting psychological change? Over the last few decades, neuroscientists have made great advances in understanding what happens to the brain during psychedelic experience. Brain imaging shows that the normal organization of the default mode network, that's the network that is responsible for your sense of self, your inner narrative, how you relate to other people, that becomes weaker, that organization, and the communication with the other networks, the executive control network, active mode network, salience network, is increased. The result is that the brain becomes temporarily more flexible. And that makes sense. But here's the question that nobody answered. Is making the brain more flexible the same as healing it? Traditionally, indigenous peoples, shamanic traditions, used psychedelics, usually after long periods of training, to acquire spirit guides, to gain visions and to gain power. It is not really recorded, or there's not many instances of it actually being used to directly heal psychological distress. But here's the thing, altered states of consciousness aren't really that unusual. For millennia, human beings have been entering altered states of consciousness through ascetic practice. That's physical discipline, fasting, prayer, meditation, vigils, etc., etc. And as someone who's spent decades studying Raja Yoga, Buddhist meditation, and latterly Christian contemplative ascetic practices, the thing is that many of the states that are attained through the use of psychedelics can be accessed through training. But the difference is that ascetic practice delivers repeatable experiences, repeatable insight, increased stability and flexibility. Psychedelics, on the other hand, produce states that are far less predictable or repeatable. And in clinical trials, to prove the therapy, participants are very, very carefully chosen. People with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, suicidality, etc. are excluded, very sensibly. But that doesn't actually mean that psychedelics aren't effective. It means that they're better understood as a beginning, as opening a door. From a psychotherapeutic perspective. Lasting recovery isn't simply about having profound experiences. It is about building new neural networks, new habits of mind. That is how neuroplasticity can be put into action. An altered state is the same, to use an analogy, is you could say it's opening a door, but walking through it is a totally different process altogether. So if you're considering psychedelic therapy or psychedelic coaching, I hope this is of some use to you.